Nearly 60 leading civil society organizations in Nigeria have called on the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, to step aside.
Daniel, what precisely are we asking for? What are the CSOs asking for?
The CSO are saying that given this, electoral fraud that has happened, the person who had benefited from it, who had been wrongly declared, he cannot now preside under number 3 in the nation, because he will be sending a wrong signal that the only way you can attain leadership position is to commit electoral fraud, is to commit, or undermine the electoral law that we have. So therefore, he did not.
Senate President Akpabio, from harassment to him being asked to resign. So guys, we all know that there was this professor who has been sentenced because he helped in rigging election in favor of, the sitting Senate president. And now, civil society groups are calling for his resignation. That we can't have somebody like him with this kind of background that somebody actually rigged election in his favor, and there've been evidence, and the court has finalized on that case. The professor has been jailed, and the person that is said to have been the beneficiary of that rigging is now the one we have as the Senate President of Nigeria. The civil society is very tough on this issue, and as it stands now, Tinubu's government has equally set up an investigative panel to look into Akpabio's case. So guys, I don't really think Akpabio is going to survive this one. He's not going to survive this one, because guess what? The pressure is huge. The pressure is so high. He cannot survive this one at the moment. I'm just going to allow you, take your time, watch this video to get the real gist and see how 50 civil society, top civil society are on Akpabio for him to resign today. And let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Now take a look.
Nearly 60 leading civil society organizations in Nigeria have called on the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, to step aside following the affirmation of the conviction for electoral fraud of Professor Peter Oban, the returning officer in the 2019 Northwest senatorial election. That's in Akpabio State. Last week, the court upheld the 3-year prison sentence handed down to Professor Oban, who was found guilty by a lower court of falsifying election results to favor Senator Akpabio, who was the APC candidate. In a joint statement, the CSOs said the ruling raises serious concerns about the legitimacy of Senator Akpabio's mandate, a mandate which they say has now been judicially confirmed to have been manipulated. Senator Akpabio has roundly denied any personal involvement in the fraud, but the CSOs insist that the conviction of the official who declared him the winner casts a very dark shadow over the credibility of that election. So do they have a point when they demand that for the sake of public confidence, Senator Akpabio must vacate his position until the matter is conclusively addressed? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Awal Musa Rafsanjani, who is the Executive Director of CISLAC. He's also the Chairman of Amnesty International Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. And you are, of course, one of the people who put their imprimatur on that document calling for the Senate President to step aside. Nearly 60 civil society organizations. Give us the bare bones of this case and how we got here.
Come back. So on the 30th of April, news broke that the Court of Appeal had upheld the conviction of a certain Professor Peter Oban, a professor who was jailed in 2021 for rigging a senatorial election for Senator Godswill Akpabio, who was the current Senate President. Now, Senator Godswill Akpabio ran in the 2019 elections, but according to details, he lost that particular election. But because Professor Oban was convicted, and his conviction are now upheld by the Court of Appeal, people have been raising questions about the person who, he allegedly rigged the elections for. What should happen to that person? This morning, we're being joined by Mr. Awal Rafsanjani, who is the Executive Director of CISLAC. It's good to see you, Mr. Rafsanjani. This conversation is a bit controversial now, isn't it? Because some people will argue that Professor Ogban is an individual in his right and, you know, has the wherewithal to do either good or evil and must be held responsible for whatever it is that he or she does. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. As someone that has officially been assigned to conduct a free, fair, and credible election, and he decided to betray the mandate given to him, definitely there must be consequences, and this is exactly what he has been facing. He has been, jailed, and the beneficiary of this rigging or this fraud cannot just simply be left out of it, so that we can be able to restore political dignity and integrity, as well as bring back confidence on the Nigerian people that if you do anything wrong, you must, no matter how long it has taken, you must face the consequences. In many other countries in the world, it doesn't matter how long you have committed the crime, as long as it has been confirmed that you have actually been involved or you are beneficiary of it, you must face the music. And therefore, this case is not also different. And the most important thing is that you cannot really be a leader with this serious moral deficit, with this serious fraud allegation that you benefited. And therefore, if you remain where you are, you will be sending a wrong message to the Nigerian people, especially the young people who have now been, unfortunately, learning only bad lessons from leaders in this country, because they are not seeing the positive, lessons. So they assume that the bad thing, the fraud, the corruption, the mismanagement, the looting, the criminality that the political elite are doing in the country, many young people, they think that is the way out. So we must restore the order. We must change this scenario so that our country can at least once change for positive, so that the young generation will not be thinking that the only way you can be prominent is when you are involved in criminality, in fraud, in corruption, in looting, in political violence, and all those negative things. We need to.
But Mr. Rafsanjani, just sorry to interrupt you. Doesn't the premise need to be correct? Because from what we understand, I mean, you say Senator Akpabio was a beneficiary. From what we understand, he lost that elections. If he eventually won, maybe he went to court. But as declared by INEC, he was said to have lost the election. So how is he a beneficiary?
Yeah, since he lost the election and the electoral officer still went ahead to impose him on the electorate in that constituency, in that senatorial district, that is why we are saying he is the beneficiary of this fraud. Had he been when INEC declared that the man did not win, because if you remember, the commissioner of INEC, in person of Mr. Igini, he had actually stood firm to ensure that justice is done, and that is the credit that we are giving him, or Nigerians are giving him, because he is not one of those INEC official, INEC commissioners that have collected bribe just to undermine the electoral integrity in that election. That is why we need people of integrity in public offices who will not join collecting this bribe to undermine the collective interests of the Nigerian people. If we have such people in our electoral system, I can assure you that Nigerians will have more confidence to even come out on board and to contribute to the political development in this country. But a situation whereby you lose election, but because you have dirty money, you have the security, you have the INEC, in some instances you have the court, to now collect that mandate of someone who won the election and then award you that victory. We need to change that mentality.
Mr. Rafsanjani, what precisely are we asking for? What are the CSOs asking for?
The CSO are saying that given this electoral fraud that has happened, the person who had benefited from it, who had been wrongly declared, he cannot now preside under number 3 in the nation, because he will be sending a wrong signal that the only way you can attain leadership position is to commit electoral fraud, is to commit, or undermine the electoral law that we have. So therefore, he did not.
Thank you very much. So civil society organization, especially those civil society organizations that have fought hard to get democracy back in Nigeria, they have been so worried and concerned that democracy and election has been bastardized in this country, and the need to restore political integrity in Nigeria so that at least we will be able to leave legacy for the younger generation. And to also, put confidence that our electoral system, it is not a system that it is only when you have money or when you have security or INEC or judiciary that you can win election. So because of this concern and because of the fact that you cannot be a leader when you have serious moral deficit, when you have ethical question around your, being involved in the electoral process, especially when the person who perpetrated this, act has been confirmed to have committed electoral fraud and even, recommended for jail, then you continue to sit in the leadership position in the country. In other countries, once you are involved, no matter how long that crime you committed, it doesn't need to be the present crime. Even if it was done previously, for the fact that you have committed that and that the court has confirmed that you are a beneficiary of such kind of crime, you lost moral superiority to be in that leadership position. And
but did he actually win that election? Because when we say he was a beneficiary, I'm wondering whether he won that particular election. I mean, I know he won the one previous and subsequent, but I mean, did he win that election?
For the court to have said that, his election was, constituted,
tainted.
Is tainted, and that, the INEC had even overwhelming facts and evidences as presented by the then electoral commissioner in the state, clearly show that something fishy had happened. If there was no any problem, why must it be Akpabio case? It could be also the other people. But in this case, we have just seen, just as recent as last week, court validating the fraud that has happened. So we are just looking at it from moral perspective, from ethical perspective, from the fact that we need to leave a legacy. We need to restore confidence on Nigerians that democracy is not a platform for committing electoral fraud, electoral rigging, and what have you.
So let's be clear. The reason you're calling for him to vacate his position is for the sake of public confidence,
Absolutely.
the rule of law, the integrity of Nigeria's democratic institutions, and I'm quoting verbatim from your press release. And your argument is that if he remains in office, that would undermine democratic values, raise much more fundamental ethical questions, and send a dangerous signal about this country's electoral process ahead of the 2027 general election.
That's exactly what we have articulated in our position, and I tell you that we had more than these 60 organizations. In fact, at the time we were just going to the press, we had several other organizations that we could not even listed in the list because we had a time deadline for people to signify their interest to join on this. Unfortunately, they missed the deadline, so several of them, which will have run into hundreds, we are not able to do that because we need to make sure that we are timely.
So it's a much bigger group.
Exactly, it's a much bigger thing because many Nigerians who have struggled for this democracy, who really want this democracy to be a platform that can ensure justice, fairness, and pre-judiciary, independent judiciary, electoral body that is trusted, security that can be also unbiased, and INEC itself that can really be independent, and the people that can actually vote and be able to get what they have voted.
Yes,
they all need to be worried and concerned, and that is why they want to make sure that whoever benefited from such a system of fraud, he or she should not. So it's not just about Akpabio person. It is about the fact that a crime had been committed, and irrespective of whoever the party,
the sanctity of the system.
It is the sanctity of the system.
But that system,
and we cannot be a country that is run by either hooligan or country that is run by unconstitutional order. If we continue that way, it means that we are mutilating democracy.
You have a very good point, but of course, I mean, the other side would argue that it also works both ways, because in addition to the ethical questions that you raise, the rights of an individual also have to be preserved. I mean, that's the whole point of it. But the question that you raise is, and that's a very important question, having been a confirmed beneficiary of the electoral fraud in the 2019 to the 9th Senate, did Senator Akpabio have the legal or moral standing to contest for a seat in the 10th Assembly? Talk less of serving as the president of the Senate, even if he didn't win in that 2019 bit. That's your argument.
So that's the
question you raised.
So this is the thing that we are saying. We are saying that in the first place, if you have been involved in this process, even though he denied that he did not state manage that, but now that we have gotten legal or judicial conviction in that case, it means that he has a case, and for him to preserve the sanctity, the dignity of even that position as Senate President, he is like number 3 in the country, and if your election is having this serious integrity deficit, then definitely you need to make that sacrifice to show example that you are not desperate, and you are not out there at all costs to stay in that position unless it is a personal interest. If it is for the public interest, there's no argument, there's no worry. You can simply step aside and even apologize to the nation, because there's no way the probe will go to jail, and then you are sitting enjoying, like I said, irrespective of which election it is. It could be, even immediately the first election that he has even contested. But the fact that crime has been committed and you cannot rob or, clean that, crime that has been committed. In other countries, if you are found guilty, even after 50 years, you will still go to, face the music. In our country, because of the political control and manipulation and lack of respect for the rule of law, and lack of the fact that we don't have, political integrity in the system, people think that they can do. Impunity is all over, and they can even rig the election and say, let's meet in court. And that is why it's a very dangerous, and that's why, again, you see many unprincipled politicians are jumping from one place to another, because they fear that they may actually win at the popular vote, and the people who wanted to take over that mandate, they will just meet in the court, because already they may have planted all sorts of judges at the appeal court, at the various court, that when they go there, they will just simply collect that mandate. That is the reason why you even see this madness of defection. Not because they believe in President Ahmed Bola Tinubu or they believe in APC. It is because of the protection. They want to make sure that they continue to enjoy the power and the resources of Nigerian people. Not because they want to build a vibrant political parties that will be constructive in opposition, that will bring alternative policies and programs that Nigerians can see the difference between what they have been canvassing for them to vote for them and what the ruling party is doing. So there's no principle. It's sad that there's no political party that is based on ideology or principle or even helping to save the Nigerian people or Nigerian economy. All they are after, they want to be there, they want to grab the power, whether at local or state or national level. And when they come, you could see clearly there's no difference between APC, PDP, and the rest of the party, including Labour Party. They are all there doing the same thing. And you could validate that even at the National Assembly. You could barely differentiate between the members of ruling party and members of the opposition parties. They all agree to what many Nigerians see as anti-even legislature, because in legislature you have freedom of expression. In legislature you have freedom to debate and discuss for the national interest. Right now in the National Assembly, if you speak against the leadership of the National Assembly position, you are likely going to be suspended, or you are likely going to be, ambushed. So therefore, the politics in Nigeria has to change. We need to sanitize this, whole political system in the country to even give confidence for Nigerians who are not even in the electoral politics to now begin to go in.
Right.
But the way it is now, it will be extremely difficult if you do not do this dirty thing to get in there. First, you have to get dirty money to finance your election, to finance all sorts of agencies that can help you rig the election. Not campaigning on issues, not actually talking to Nigerians to see the problems they have. None of them is doing any need assessment to see what the problems are. For example, even the current leadership, they had promised so many things that, like electricity, like ensuring that they block leakages. There are so many things they promise. Nobody is asking questions, and because they don't really care about you, all they are interested, they grab the power and they are there and do whatever you want to do.
I think a lot of Nigerians would agree with your assessment. Let's return to the issue that we're discussing here, and let's be clear that your group of CSOs, you're not calling for the Senate President to step down, but to step aside, which essentially means that he should temporarily vacate his position until the matter is conclusively addressed. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we are asking, because there's no way he can be seated, in that position. And
you'll be rubbing it in the face.
You expect any fair conclusion on this matter, because the case has already been decided at the appeal court.
Yeah.
They are likely maybe perhaps to go to Supreme Court. We are saying that for him to give neutrality, for him to give confidence that actually he was not involved in whatever fraud there, it is only natural and proper for him to say, okay, let me step aside until after all this judicial issue
let
is
all
concluded.
the investigations be carried out.
Once that is done, I am telling you, Akpabio would have been celebrated as someone who believes in the rule of law, as someone who really is not in that position because of personal interest, but public interest.
Right.
We need to differentiate public interest and personal interest.
But what if he sits tight? What then?
Well, if he continue to sit tight, then it means that it's a bad example for the future generation and for democracy itself, because
but there's so many bad examples of democracy. Most people would probably just shrug their shoulders and life goes on.
But there should be integrity, and there should be dignity. There should be system correctness. You cannot simply, because some other people are doing it, then you continue to do it. It means that one day you cannot even have any election in Nigeria. People will just declare themselves winners. And if you continue with this kind of trend, you would have killed democracy itself.
And
already democracy is threatening now in this country.
You mentioned elections. Of course, 2027 is coming up, and one of the things you pointed out is that it's absolutely imperative that mechanisms that prevent electoral manipulation must be strengthened at all levels. And this is one of those times when we have to start, or the country has to start setting an example, so that there can be no question of the direction that it wants to go, which is essentially to prevent electoral manipulation.
Yeah, so our appeal to Mr. President and National Assembly members, as well as INEC, this is the right time to begin to do genuine electoral reform that can actually restore confidence, on Nigerians, that yes, indeed, Nigerians, political leaders are ready to allow democratic process to happen. Secondly, this is the time that we need to have a thorough reform on our political parties, because the current political parties that we have actually are not meeting the aspiration of Nigerians, and also even a requirement of a true political party system that you have. None of them is engaged in political education. None of them is talking to their members. And none of them is even paying any due. As a member of a political party, you need to be involved, you need to have ownership, you need to participate, you need to be in the decision making. How can you be in the decision making and be involved when it is only the governor, the president, and the big, financier using dirty money in some cases that decide and determine who becomes XYZ. That is not a true political party,
And
and that cannot really usher us a true democratic election.
Yes, talking about parties, I mean, you also mentioned you talked about the ruling APC. You said you were calling on them to demonstrate their commitment to electoral reform and accountability by initiating a rerun of revalidation process for that Northwest senatorial seat in Akpabio state. That's what.
Because the ruling party can actually do a lot to demonstrate to Nigerians that they are actually serious about electoral strengthening, electoral democracy in Nigeria by taking those steps. If they do that, they would have actually shown a good example about the conduct or about the process in Nigeria. So we are appealing to Mr. President to do everything possible to bring some level of sanity and dignity in the political system in the country. If we just allow things to continue in this loose way, you will see impunity will take over, you will see violence will take over, you will see more marginalization of women and other disadvantaged groups in the country.
Well, we're almost out of time. You're clearly not impressed with the executive, in that arm of government. You're not that impressed with the legislature, the National Assembly. Are you impressed with how the judiciary has handled this case?
In this case, we salute the judiciary, and we also salute the Electoral Office Commissioner, Mike Igni, who
Mike Igini.
Mike Igini actually made a huge difference, and he has set a good example of other electoral commissioners who are supposed to uphold their position with integrity and dignity. Today he is no more there, but his name has been written in gold in democracy in Nigeria and abroad. So we are proud of him, for him to stay away from collecting bribe, to do things based on rule of law, based on true democracy and true fear of God. Those are the kind of people that we need to have in our public offices, not people who will go and be doing trading with the people's collective interests.
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Thanks for coming in and talking to us about this. Awal Musa Rafsanjani is Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, or CISLAC. He's also the Chair of the Board of Amnesty International Nigeria. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.
Guys, you can see what's happening in Nigeria. These are politicians, they remain untouchable. The laws and the constitution, whatever it is just for the poor. But when it gets to these people, they are so proofed. I mean, when you hear a car is bulletproof, they are so bulletproof that the bullet of the constitution does not touch them. The bullet of the judiciary does not touch them. The bullet of the security agencies does not touch them. These people are so protected. I mean, they are so protected. And that is why some of the errors of this government, of the Tinubu's administration, Akpabio dares not argue any. If Tinubu wants to borrow loan now, he doesn't even need to bring that proposal on the floor. They know how to do it behind the scene, And so many things that have been going on. You can imagine where the government knows, okay, somebody rigged for you. And there is no way you can tell Tinubu, as in checkmate Tinubu's excesses. Akpabio cannot, because the Tinubu's government will, if they want to remove him today, just this case alone is enough to remove him. And then with this case, they will just be using him as a puppet. He cannot have a say of his own. Even when Nigerians are objecting to some of their actions, he cannot change it. He cannot do anything. This is one of the reasons. So guys, this is why people are calling for Akpabio's resignation. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.